I never used to believe in anything supernatural. I was a rational person, science, logic, explanation. That was before last summer. Before the night I camped alone in the Mojave Desert. I'd been road tripping across California, chasing the solitude I couldn't find in the city. I brought only the basics: tent, water, a camping stove, and my phone with a downloaded playlist. No cell service. No distractions. I picked a remote patch in Mojave, far from any marked trail. Just red sand, scattered boulders, and the kind of silence that hums in your ears. By the time I pitched my tent, the sun had dipped below the dunes, casting a reddish glow over everything. I made a quick dinner, watched the stars blink to life, and crawled into my sleeping bag. It was peaceful, exactly what I wanted. Around midnight, I woke up. At first, I thought it was the wind. It had picked up, whistling through the tent fabric, rustling the brush outside. But underneath the wind, there was something else. A melody, faint, haunting, like a woman singing far off in the distance. Just a few long, drawn-out notes, soft, but deliberate. I sat up, heart thudding. Maybe someone had pulled into the area after dark. Maybe they were playing music. But it didn't sound like any music I'd ever heard. No instruments. Just a voice. A strange, echoing voice. The kind that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. I turned off my flashlight and listened. The song was getting clearer. The voice rose and fell with the wind, like it was weaving through the dunes, coming from every direction and none at all. There were no lyrics I could make out, just this mournful, drifting tune. It didn't feel like it was meant to be heard. It felt private, like I was intruding. I zipped open the tent and stepped outside barefoot. The sand was cool beneath my feet. The night was moonless, pitch black except for the stars. I turned slowly, trying to locate the source. Nothing but desert in every direction. No lights. No movement. No car. No campfire. I called out, "Hello?" The singing stopped. The sudden silence was crushing. Even the wind had gone still. The kind of stillness that doesn't feel right. I waited, my breath shallow. Then, just behind me, I heard a soft hum, just a single, vibrating note. Not in my ears. In my head. I spun around. Nothing. I grabbed my flashlight, flicked it on, and scanned the area. The beam caught nothing but rocks and scrub. My own shadow trembled across the sand, trying to shake it off. I got back in the tent and zipped it up tight. I told myself it was a trick of the wind. Sound travels weird in the desert. Right? I lay there, eyes wide open, waiting for sleep to come. But then, the singing returned. Louder this time. Closer. And now, I could make out words. Old, broken words in a language I didn't recognize. Drifting in and out of coherence. They sounded sad. Desperate. Like a lullaby sung by someone who had lost everything. I wanted to move. To run. But my limbs felt heavy. Like the air around me was thickening. The song surrounded the tent. Circling it. Then overlapping itself, multiple voices. All singing in the same aching tone. Then silence again. But not peace. Because I heard footsteps. Soft, crunching footsteps on the sand. Slowly pacing around the tent. One full circle. Then another. I held my breath. They stopped at the entrance. I didn't dare move. My hand hovered over the zipper. But I couldn't bring myself to touch it. The air inside the tent felt frozen. A low whisper seeped through the fabric. It wasn't in my language. But I understood the emotion: grief, hunger, loneliness. I blacked out sometime after that. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe something else. I don't remember falling asleep. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. Bright, glaring light filled the tent. Birds chirped in the distance. Everything looked normal until I stepped outside. The sand around my tent was disturbed. Not from animals. Footprints. Human. Barefoot. Leading in slow circles around the tent. Just as I had heard. But no tire tracks. No other signs of life. Just one set of prints. And they didn't lead away. They just stopped. Vanished. I packed everything and left within 10 minutes. I've tried to forget it. To convince myself it was a dream or sleep paralysis. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone, I still hear that melody in the back of my mind. Still faint. Still full of sadness. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd unzipped the tent. And other times, I wonder if she ever left. I wasn't planning to stop in Baltimore. It was supposed to be a straight shot down the East Coast with a few camping nights along the way. But rain had rolled in hard that evening. My friends, Alex, Jasmine, Chris, and I, were soaked to the bone and exhausted. So when we stumbled across an old, overgrown sign that read Maple Grove Inn, vacancy, we took it as a lucky break. The place looked abandoned. But the front door wasn't locked. Inside, it smelled like mildew and thyme. But the structure seemed intact enough. No power. But we had lanterns. And we were too tired to care. We set up camp in the lounge on the first floor. Close enough to the exit. Just in case. The wallpaper was peeling. The furniture covered in white sheets like ghost costumes at a forgotten party. Chris joked about the place being haunted. But we all laughed it off, until the first night. I woke up around 2 a.m. Not from a sound, but from a feeling. You ever get that deep sense that something's wrong? Even if your brain can't put its finger on it yet? That's what this was. I sat up slowly. Everyone else was asleep. Then I saw it, through a broken window. Up on the second floor. Just past the staircase, I saw a flickering red light. Not steady like a bulb. It blinked. Irregularly. Like it was alive. I told myself it was probably a reflection from a passing car. But the roads were dead silent. I couldn't ignore it. Grabbing my flashlight, I headed up the creaky stairs. Every step echoed into the darkness above. Like the hotel was swallowing the sound. Halfway up, I stopped cold. There was a dark stain on one of the steps, thick, crusted, and unmistakably old blood. Not a drop or two, but a smear that trailed upwards. I tried to tell myself it could be rust or something else. But the smell, faint and metallic, disagreed. As I reached the second floor, the red light blinked again, further down the hall now. I turned to follow it. That's when I heard it. A soft shuffle, like bare feet dragging across dusty wood. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "Hello?" I whispered. My voice sounded alien in that corridor. Nothing. I moved forward. The beam of my flashlight flicked across doorways. Each one closed and decayed. At the very end of the hall, just before the wall, one door stood slightly ajar. I pushed it gently. It creaked open, revealing a room that hadn't been touched in decades. The bed was stripped. The mattress moldy and sunken. Drapes hung like rotting curtains of skin. On the far wall, something glinted, an old picture frame resting neatly on a table. Untouched by time. I stepped inside. Heart pounding. That's when the door behind me slammed shut. I whipped around, no one. The knob wouldn't budge. Panicking, I turned back toward the frame. Inside it was a photograph. Faded and yellowed, but clear enough. A woman, standing beside the very bed in this room, wearing a long, crimson dress. Her face was pale. Her eyes hollow. But what chilled me was the way she was standing. Not posed. Not smiling. Just staring, like she knew this photo would be found. Like she was still waiting. I felt warmth trickling down my neck, sweat. I hoped. Suddenly, The flashlight flickered, then died. The room was swallowed in black. I heard it again. Shuffle. Shuffle. Stop. It was closer. Something brushed past my leg. I bolted, shoulder-checked the door. It flew open like it had never been locked. I sprinted down the hallway, not daring to look back. The red light now blinking behind me like a heartbeat. I didn't sleep again that night. None of us did. The next morning, we packed up in silence. No one asked why I looked so pale. They all had their own reasons. Jasmine claimed she heard humming near her ear while she slept. Chris said he dreamed of someone watching us from the hallway. No one laughed anymore. As I zipped my bag, something caught my eye. On the lounge table, where we'd played cards last night, was the same photograph. The woman in red. The same room. But this time, there was a second figure in the background, faint, barely visible, standing just outside the window, watching. We left without another word, and I haven't been back to Baltimore since. But some nights, when I close my eyes, I see that flicker of red again, and I wonder, did she follow one of us home? I work as a seasonal ranger and wilderness guide in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. People think the job is all scenic trails and campfire stories. But the truth is, you see and hear things in the deep woods that stay with you. There's one story I never tell around the fire. It happened a few years ago. In late October, a family, husband, wife, and their 2 teenage kids, had rented a secluded cabin just inside the park's protected zone. It was a beautiful old place, surrounded by trees that burned orange and red in the fall sun. Remote. No cell service. Perfect for people looking to disconnect. They'd booked it for 4 nights. They only stayed 3. On the first night, the parents, let's call them Tom and Lisa, put the kids to bed and stayed up sipping wine by the fireplace. Around 11 p.m., Lisa heard a noise. 3 solid hits on the front door. Slow. Heavy. Tom got up and checked. No one. Just leaves rustling outside. Maybe a branch hit the cabin, he figured. They went to bed. But it happened again the next night. Same time. Same pattern. 5 seconds of silence. Then again. This time, Tom checked the door immediately. Nothing. He stepped outside with a flashlight. Walked around the cabin. No footprints in the soft earth. Nothing disturbed. He felt. Watched. He told me later. It was like the forest itself was holding its breath. They had a trail camera set up by the front porch, part of a wildlife project the son was doing. Tom reviewed the footage from the night before. He saw the door shaking slightly at 11:03 p.m., but no one touched it. No hand. No animal. Just the door. Moving. That's when Lisa started sleeping with the light on. By the 3rd night, everyone was on edge. Even the kids, who'd initially joked about Bigfoot or some prankster, were quiet. At 10:57 p.m., they heard it again. But it wasn't at the front door. This time, it came from the back of the cabin. That door led to a short wooden deck overlooking a ravine. No path. Just trees and thick underbrush. They hadn't used it once. Tom ran to the kitchen window. The floodlight triggered, but there was no one there. The knocking continued. Precise. Measured. Lisa said she heard whispering. Not words. Just breathy murmurs. Like someone murmuring just below hearing. That broke them. They packed in 15 minutes. Left half their stuff behind. And drove all night back to town. I got the call from our local ranger office the next morning, asking me to go check the property. Everything looked normal. Cold fireplace. Dishes in the sink. Then I opened the back door. Just below the doorknob, scratched into the old wooden panel, was a message, "Don't come back." The words weren't burned in or carved with a knife. They looked torn into the wood, deep. jagged gashes. Like made by bone or something harder. I asked the maintenance guy to replace the door before the next renters. But I didn't throw the old one out. It's still in our supply shed, leaning against the back wall. Sometimes, when I go out there alone, I swear I hear it from behind the door. And I wait. Count to 5. It always comes again.